My name is Geraldine, and I am 62 years old. As I lay here in this cold hospital bed surrounded by the constant beeping of machines and the harsh fluorescent lights above me, I never imagined my own son would choose a birthday party over his mother fighting for her life. The phone call I made to Marcus before my emergency heart surgery keeps replaying in my mind. His voice seemed distant, distracted, promising he would be right there. But that was 3 days ago, and this ICU room has seen every visitor except the one person who should matter most. Before I share what happened next, I would love to know where you are watching this from. Please, hit that like button if you have ever felt like your children meant everything to you, and do not forget to subscribe because I have so much more to share about the journey of a mother's heart. Now let me tell you about the phone call that changed everything between my son and me forever. Marcus had always been my whole world. When his father died suddenly of a stroke when Marcus was just 12 years old, I made a promise to myself that I would give that boy everything he needed to succeed in life. I worked 2 jobs for years, one at the insurance company during the day and another cleaning offices at night, just to make sure he could go to college without drowning in student debt like so many other kids his age. Those were hard times, but they were also some of the most meaningful years of my life. Marcus would wait up for me when I came home from my second job, sometimes falling asleep at the kitchen table with his homework spread out in front of him. I would carry him to bed and he would mumble in his sleepy voice, "Mom, when I grow up, I will always take care of you." Those words kept me going through the exhaustion, through the bills that seemed to multiply faster than I could pay them, through the loneliness of raising a child by myself. When Marcus graduated from college with his engineering degree, I cried tears of pure joy. He got a good job at a tech company, and for the first time in years, I felt like I could finally breathe. We had Sunday dinners every week at my house, the same house his father and I had bought when Marcus was just a baby. Those Sunday dinners became sacred to me. Marcus would tell me about his work, about the projects he was designing, and I would cook all his favorite foods from when he was growing up. Everything changed 3 years ago when Marcus met Stephanie through some dating app. She was 29, originally from California, and came from a wealthy family that owned several businesses out west. From the moment I met her, I could sense that she looked down on our simple traditions. She would make little comments during our Sunday dinners about how old-fashioned everything was, how she was not used to such heavy meals, and how young people in California had more modern approaches to family time. I tried to be patient with Stephanie because Marcus seemed happy with her. But as the months went by, I watched my son slowly start to change. He began missing our Sunday dinners, always with the excuse that Stephanie needs me for something. When I would call him during the week, conversations that used to last for an hour were suddenly cut short after 10 minutes because Stephanie and I have plans. The house I was living in had been left to me by my late husband, but in a moment of generosity and trust, I had added Marcus's name to the deed. I wanted him to know that this house filled with all our memories would someday be his. It seemed like the right thing to do for a son who had promised to always take care of his mother. I never imagined that decision would come back to haunt me in ways I could never have predicted. The heart attack came without warning on a Tuesday morning. I was sitting at my desk at the insurance office reviewing a claim when suddenly I felt like someone had placed a massive weight on my chest. The pain shot down my left arm and I could barely breathe. My coworker Sandra saw me clutching my chest and immediately called 911. The ambulance ride to the hospital was a blur of sirens and paramedics asking me questions I could barely answer. All I could think about was Marcus and how scared he would be when he found out what was happening. When we arrived at the hospital, Dr. Patricia Williams, the cardiologist on duty, explained that I had suffered a massive heart attack and needed emergency bypass surgery immediately. "Mrs. Henderson," Dr. Williams said in a calm but serious tone, "we need to operate within the next hour. You have a 75% blockage in your main artery, and without this surgery, I cannot guarantee what might happen." As they prepared me for surgery, I used the hospital phone to call Marcus. It rang several times before he answered, and I could hear the sounds of an office environment in the background. "Marcus, honey, I am at the hospital," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I had a heart attack and they need to do surgery right away." There was a pause, and then I heard him say something to someone else about being in an important meeting. "Oh no, Mom, are you okay? I am actually in this really crucial presentation right now, but I will head over there as soon as I can." The surgery is starting in an hour, I told him. I will be there, Mom. Do not worry about anything. Just focus on getting better. Those were the last words I heard from my son before they wheeled me into the operating room. 4 hours later, when I woke up in the intensive care unit, my first instinct was to look around the room for Marcus. The nurse told me the surgery had gone well, that Dr. Williams had successfully completed a triple bypass, and that I was going to be just fine with proper rest and recovery. But Marcus was nowhere to be seen. At 11 that night, my phone buzzed with a text message. Sorry, Mom, stuck in traffic. We'll be there soon. I spent that entire night staring at the ceiling, listening to the rhythmic beeping of the heart monitor, waiting for my son to walk through that door. Every time I heard footsteps in the hallway, I thought it might be him. But morning came, and the only visitors I had were the nurses checking my vital signs and Dr. Williams making her rounds. The second day after my surgery, I could not stand the silence any longer. I called Marcus again, and this time, when he answered, I could hear something very different in the background. Instead of office sounds, there was music playing and the sound of people laughing and talking. Marcus, where are you? I asked. I have been waiting for you to come to the hospital. I am at a work event, Mom. It is really important for my career. How are you feeling? But as he spoke, I heard something that made my blood run cold. In the background, clear as day, I heard Stephanie's voice singing "Happy Birthday" to me, followed by a group of people clapping and cheering. Marcus, I said slowly, what kind of work event has birthday songs? There was a long pause, and I could almost feel his panic through the phone. Okay, Mom, I did not want to worry you while you were recovering, but today is Stephanie's birthday. She planned this party months ago, and all her friends flew in from California. I could not just abandon her on her special day. I felt like someone had punched me in the stomach. My own son was at a birthday party, while his mother was lying in the ICU after emergency heart surgery. Marcus, I almost died. I whispered into the phone, tears streaming down my face. Mom, do not be so dramatic. The doctor said the surgery went well. You are going to be fine. It is just one day. Stephanie would never forgive me if I ruined her birthday celebration. I am your mother, I said, my voice breaking. And Stephanie is my wife, he shot back. She planned this for months. All her friends are here. I cannot just leave. But I needed you here. Mom, you are being selfish. Stephanie only gets one birthday a year, and you are going to be in the hospital for several more days anyway. I promise I will come by tomorrow afternoon. He hung up before I could respond. I sat there in that hospital bed, holding the phone, unable to believe what had just happened. This was the same boy who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms, who cried when I had to work late because he missed me, who promised he would always take care of me. Tomorrow afternoon came and went. Marcus never showed up. That evening, Dr. Williams came by to check on me and noticed that I seemed unusually upset. Mrs. Henderson, is everything all right? Your heart rate has been elevated today. My son was supposed to visit, I said simply. Dr. Williams looked at my chart and then back at me with concern. You know, Mrs. Henderson, we are going to need to keep you here for 2 additional days. You developed some minor complications that we want to monitor closely. Is there someone else you can call to be with you? I realized in that moment just how alone I really was. Marcus was the only family I had left, and he had chosen a birthday party over his mother's bedside. The next morning, I received a phone call that would change everything. It was my dear friend Janet, whom I had known since college. She had heard about my surgery through our mutual friend circle and was calling to check on me. Geraldine, honey, how are you holding up? I am so sorry I did not know sooner, or I would have been there with you. I am okay, Janet, just tired. Where is Marcus? I assume he has been taking good care of you. I could not bring myself to tell her the truth about the birthday party, so I just said he had been busy with work. That is strange, Janet said, because I could swear I saw him and Stephanie at the real estate office on Main Street yesterday afternoon when I was driving by. They were talking to that agent, what is his name, the one who sold the Morrison house last year. My heart started racing, and it had nothing to do with my medical condition. Are you sure it was them? Oh, yes, definitely. Stephanie was wearing that bright pink coat she always has on, and Marcus was carrying a folder full of papers. I thought about stopping to say hello, but they looked like they were in the middle of something important. After I hung up with Janet, I could not stop thinking about what she had said. Why would Marcus and Stephanie be at a real estate office? We had never discussed selling any property, and as far as I knew, they were renting their apartment downtown. An hour later, my phone rang again. This time, it was Eleanor, my 78-year-old neighbor who had lived next door to me for the past 15 years. Geraldine, dear, I hope you do not mind me calling you at the hospital, but I got your number from the directory. I wanted you to know that there have been some strange people at your house. What kind of strange people? Well, yesterday and today there have been men with cameras and measuring tapes walking around your property. They were taking pictures of the outside of the house and writing things down on clipboards. I asked one of them what they were doing, and he said something about a property assessment. My hands were shaking as I held the phone. Property assessment. Real estate office. Marcus carrying papers. Eleanor, did you see Marcus there with these men? No, dear, but I did see Stephanie drive by slowly twice, like she was checking on something. After Eleanor hung up, I sat in that hospital bed, feeling like my entire world was crumbling around me. With trembling fingers, I called the real estate office that Janet had mentioned. Hello, this is Geraldine Henderson. I believe my son Marcus Henderson was in your office recently regarding my property on Oak Street. Oh, yes, Mrs. Henderson. Mr. Henderson has been very eager to move forward with the listing. He mentioned you were in the hospital and that he has power of attorney to handle the sale while you recover. We have the paperwork ready and the photographer finished the exterior shots yesterday. We should have the listing active by early next week. I hung up the phone and immediately called Marcus. When he answered, I could hear the sounds of a restaurant in the background. Marcus, we need to talk right now. Mom, I am having lunch with Stephanie. Can this wait? No, it cannot wait. I just found out you have been trying to sell my house. The background noise suddenly stopped like he had stepped outside. Mom, how did you find out about that? So you admit it. Look, Stephanie and I have been talking, and we think it is time for you to downsize. You are getting older, and that house is too big for one person. We found a really nice senior living facility that would be perfect for you. Without asking me, we wanted to surprise you, and honestly, Mom, after this heart attack, it is clear you cannot take care of yourself anymore. Stephanie and I are young, and we need space for when we start our family. The house would be perfect for us. I could not believe what I was hearing. That house is my home, Marcus. It is where your father and I raised you. And now, it can be where Stephanie and I raise our children. It is all about passing things down through generations, right? Before I could respond, I heard Stephanie's voice in the background, and then the phone was passed to her. Geraldine, let us be realistic here. You are in your 60s, you just had major heart surgery, and you are living alone in a 4-bedroom house. Marcus and I are in our prime, we have good jobs, and we are ready to start a family. It just makes sense for us to take over the house now instead of waiting for something bad to happen to you. Something bad to happen to me. You know what I mean. At your age with your health problems, it is just a matter of time before you need more care than you can manage alone. This way, you get to see us enjoy the house, and we do not have to deal with selling it later when you are not around to make decisions. Stephanie, I am not dying. The doctor said I'm going to be fine. For now. But Marcus already signed the paperwork with the real estate agent. The house will be listed next week, and we found you a lovely place called Sunset Manor. They have bingo nights and everything. The line went dead. They had hung up on me. That night, alone in my hospital room, I did something I had not done since my husband's funeral. I cried until I had no tears left. But as the hours passed, my sadness began to transform into something else, a burning anger and a determination to take control of my own life. I started thinking about all the sacrifices I had made for Marcus over the years. When he was 16 and wanted to go on that expensive school trip to Washington, D.C., I sold my grandmother's antique jewelry to pay for it. When he needed a car for college, I took out a second mortgage on the house. When he graduated and could not afford the deposit for his first apartment, I gave him $5,000 from my retirement savings. But, most painfully, I remembered Robert. Robert was a kind gentleman who worked in the accounting department at my insurance company. 3 years after my husband died, Robert had asked me to marry him. He loved Marcus like his own son and promised to help me finish raising him. But I said no because I was afraid that bringing a stepfather into Marcus's life would somehow take away from the attention and resources I could give to my son. I chose Marcus over love, over companionship, over my own happiness, and now, 15 years later, Marcus was repaying that sacrifice by trying to steal my home while I lay in a hospital bed. But then I remembered something crucial. When I had added Marcus's name to the house deed, my lawyer had explained that it was only for inheritance purposes. Marcus's name was on the deed, but the house was still legally mine until I either died or signed it over to him completely. He could not sell the house without my signature. From my hospital bed, I called James Patterson, the family attorney who had handled my husband's estate and had helped me with the deed paperwork years ago. James, this is Geraldine Henderson. I need to know exactly what rights my son has regarding my house. Well, Geraldine, since you retained ownership and only added him as a beneficiary, he cannot sell or transfer the property without your written consent. Why do you ask? When I explained what Marcus and Stephanie were trying to do, James was quiet for a long moment. Geraldine, I think we need to have a serious conversation about protecting your interests. Can you come to my office when you get out of the hospital? Actually, James, I think I need to remove Marcus from the deed entirely, and I want to change my will. Are you sure about this? This is a big decision. I have never been more sure of anything in my life. Over the next 2 hours, James walked me through all my options. By the end of our conversation, I had a plan. A plan that would teach Marcus and Stephanie that they could not manipulate and abandon the person who had sacrificed everything for them. I was discharged from the hospital on a Friday morning 5 days after my surgery. As I was gathering my things to leave, Marcus finally appeared in my hospital room carrying a small bouquet of flowers that looked like he had grabbed them from the hospital gift shop on his way upstairs. "Mom, you look great," he said, giving me an awkward hug. "I am so sorry I could not be here more this week. Work has been absolutely crazy, and then with Stephanie's birthday and all the family visiting from California." "I understand," I said quietly. "Good. I was worried you might be upset with me." He sat down in the chair next to my bed. "So listen, Stephanie and I have been thinking, and we want to take you out to dinner tonight to celebrate you getting out of the hospital. We can discuss the house situation then." "The house situation?" "Yeah, the realtor says we can probably get a really good price if we list it quickly. The market is hot right now, and we already put a deposit down on this amazing penthouse downtown. It has floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the river. You are going to love visiting us there." "Visiting you?" "Well, once you get settled at Sunset Manor, they have a great activities program, Mom. You will make lots of friends your own age." When we arrived at my house that afternoon, Stephanie was already there, sitting in my living room like she owned the place. She had papers spread out on my coffee table and was talking on her phone about staging the property for maximum appeal. "Oh, good you are home," she said when she saw me barely looking up from her phone conversation. "I already called the cleaning service. They will be here Monday to do a deep clean before the photographer comes back for interior shots." Marcus set my hospital bag down and sat on the couch next to Stephanie. "Mom, we should probably start going through your stuff this weekend. You will not have room for everything at your new place, so we need to decide what to keep and what to donate." "My new place? Sunset Manor. We already filled out the application. You can move in next month." I looked around the living room where I had spent the last 30 years of my life. The walls were covered with photos of Marcus growing up, pictures of family vacations, memories of birthday parties and Christmas mornings. The furniture was the same set that my husband and I had picked out when we were newlyweds, worn but comfortable and full of history. "Marcus," I said slowly, "I need to tell you something." "What is it, Mom?" "I know you think you can sell this house, but you cannot." Marcus and Stephanie looked at each other, and then Marcus laughed. "Mom, my name is on the deed. The lawyer already explained everything to the realtor. Your name is on the deed, but you do not own the house. You never did, and you cannot sell what you do not own." The smile faded from Marcus's face. "What are you talking about?" I reached into my purse and pulled out the papers that James Patterson had prepared for me. I talked to my attorney from the hospital. It turns out that when I added your name to the deed, it was only for inheritance purposes. You would only get the house if something happened to me, but since I am very much alive, the house is still mine. Stephanie grabbed the papers from my hand and started reading them quickly. Her face went pale. "This cannot be right," she said. "We already put a deposit down on the penthouse. We told the realtor we could close next week." "That was your mistake," I said calmly. Marcus stood up, his face red with anger. "Mom, you cannot do this to us. We have been planning this for months. Stephanie already picked out furniture for the penthouse. We told her parents we were moving to a bigger place. You made those plans without asking me. Because we knew you would be difficult about it, Stephanie snapped. You are too old to live in this big house by yourself. We are young and starting our lives together. We deserve this house more than you do. I looked at my son, this man I had raised and loved and sacrificed for, and I saw a stranger. Marcus, do you remember what you used to say to me when you were little? When I would come home exhausted from working 2 jobs to pay for your clothes and your school supplies and your college fund? Mom, do not try to make me feel guilty. You used to say, Mom, when I grow up, I will always take care of you. Do you remember that? That was a long time ago. Things change. People grow up. Yes, they do. And I have grown up enough to realize that I raised a son who thinks it is acceptable to try to sell his mother's house while she is in the hospital recovering from heart surgery. Stephanie stood up and got in my face. Listen, Geraldine, you can be as sentimental as you want, but this is about being practical. You are old, you are sick, and you are alone. Marcus and I are the future. If you do not cooperate with us on this, we will have you declared incompetent and put you in a nursing home anyway. That was the moment I knew exactly what I had to do. Get out, I said quietly. What? Marcus asked. Get out of my house, both of you. Mom, you do not mean that. I walked to the front door and opened it wide. I mean every word of it. You chose Stephanie's birthday party over your mother's bedside. You tried to sell my house behind my back. You planned to put me in a nursing home without even asking how I felt about it. You are not the son I raised. Fine, Stephanie said, grabbing her purse. But do not come crying to us when you fall down these stairs and there is nobody here to help you. Marcus stood in the doorway, looking confused and angry. Mom, if you do this, if you kick us out, that is it. I cannot keep coming back here and dealing with your drama. Then, do not, I said, because as of today, you are no longer welcome in this house. I closed the door behind them and turned the lock. For the first time in 3 years, my house was completely quiet. The next morning, I woke up in my own bed for the first time in a week. The sunlight was streaming through my bedroom windows, and I could hear birds singing in the oak tree outside. I felt lighter than I had in years, like a weight had been lifted from my chest that had nothing to do with my recent surgery. I made myself a cup of coffee and sat at my kitchen table looking around at the home that was truly mine again. For the first time since my husband died, I began to imagine what I wanted to do with the rest of my life, instead of what other people expected me to do. That afternoon, Janet came over with a casserole and stayed to help me figure out my next steps. Eleanor brought homemade soup and offered to help with anything I needed. These women who owed me nothing were showing me more care and concern than my own son had during the worst week of my life. Geraldine, Janet said as we sat in my living room. I have to ask, are you really okay with what happened with Marcus? I know how much you love that boy. I do love him, I said, but I finally realized that loving someone does not mean letting them treat you badly. I spent so many years trying to be the perfect mother that I forgot to teach him how to be a decent human being. Over the next few weeks, I made some major decisions about my life. I decided to retire early from the insurance company and use some of my savings to travel to places I had always wanted to see but never could because I was too busy working and saving every penny for Marcus's future. I also decided to sell the house, but on my own terms. Instead of the quick sale that Marcus and Stephanie had planned, I took my time and found a lovely young family with 2 small children who reminded me of Marcus and myself when he was little. They promised to take good care of the garden that my husband had planted and to keep the tire swing that still hung from the oak tree in the backyard. With the money from the sale, I bought a small but beautiful condominium near the beach about an hour away from my old neighborhood. It had 2 bedrooms, one for me and one for guests, and a kitchen window that looked out over the water. I started taking cooking classes at the community center and discovered that I loved teaching other people how to make the comfort foods I had been cooking for my family for decades. Soon, I was volunteering to teach cooking classes for other seniors, and I found a sense of purpose that had nothing to do with taking care of anyone else. 6 months after I moved to my new place, Janet called with news about Marcus. I thought you should know, she said carefully. Stephanie left him. Oh. Apparently, when they could not afford the penthouse without selling your house, she started having second thoughts about their relationship. She moved back to California last month. Marcus is living in a studio apartment now, working extra hours to pay back the deposit they lost. I felt sorry for Marcus, but I did not feel responsible for fixing his problems anymore. 2 weeks later, my phone rang. It was Marcus. Mom, I know I have no right to call you, but I needed to hear your voice. Hello, Marcus. I messed up. I messed up really badly. Stephanie is gone. I am broke, and I have been thinking about what you said about the kind of son you raised. You were right. I was not acting like the man you taught me to be. No, you were not. I am sorry, Mom. I am sorry for everything, for not being there when you needed me, for trying to take your house, for choosing Stephanie over you. I do not know how to fix this, but I want to try. I was quiet for a long moment. Part of me wanted to forgive him immediately and invite him to my new home for dinner, but I had learned something important about myself over the past few months. Marcus, I appreciate your apology, and I want you to know that I still love you, but love and trust are two different things. You broke my trust in a way that I am not sure can be repaired. What does that mean? It means that if you want to have a relationship with me going forward, it has to be on different terms. I am not going to be the mother who gives and gives and gives while you take and take and take. I am not going to be your backup plan when your other relationships do not work out. I understand. Do you? Because understanding it and living it are two different things. I want to try, Mom. I want to learn how to be the son you deserved all along. Then you can start by building a life that does not depend on me for anything. Get your finances in order. Figure out who you are when you are not trying to please a woman who does not care about you. Learn how to be alone and happy before you try to be part of someone else's life. And then, maybe in time we can have coffee and talk about safe topics like the weather and your job. But, Marcus, I need you to understand that I will never again be the mother who puts her son's needs ahead of her own well-being. I hurt you so badly. Yes, you did. But you also taught me something valuable. You taught me that I am stronger than I ever knew and that I deserve to be treated with respect and kindness, even by the people I love most. Marcus called me a few more times over the following months, and gradually we began to have brief, polite conversations. He told me about his new job, about the therapy he was attending, about the steps he was taking to rebuild his life. I listened, but I did not offer advice or money or a place to stay when things got difficult. 1 year after my heart surgery, I was walking on the beach near my condominium when I ran into someone I had not seen in 15 years. It was Robert, the man who had wanted to marry me when Marcus was in high school. Geraldine Henderson. Robert, what a surprise. We talked for 2 hours on that beach, catching up on the years that had passed, sharing stories about our children and our careers and the ways our lives had changed. When he asked if I would like to have dinner with him sometime, I said yes, without hesitation. You seem different, he told me over dinner the following week, more confident, more at peace with yourself. I learned something important this year, I told him. I learned that sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone you love is the gift of consequences. I spent so many years protecting my son from the results of his choices that I never gave him the chance to grow up. And now he has the chance to become the man I always hoped he could be. But it is his choice to make, not mine to force. As I sit here now, 2 years later, I can honestly say that losing my son's presence in my life was one of the most painful things I have ever experienced, but it was also one of the most liberating. I discovered that I am not just somebody's mother or somebody's wife or somebody's employee. I am Geraldine, a woman with her own dreams and interests, and the right to expect respectful treatment from everyone in her life. Sometimes love means holding on tight, but sometimes love means knowing when to let go. I spent 34 years being Marcus's mother, but I could not spend the rest of my life being his victim. And the most surprising thing of all is that when I finally stopped trying to control his choices, he finally started making better ones. The relationship between Marcus and me will never be what it once was. Too much has happened. Too much trust has been broken. But it can be something new, something healthier, something built on mutual respect instead of guilt and obligation. And I have learned that sometimes the best thing you can do for someone you love is to love yourself enough to walk away when they are hurting you. It does not mean you stop caring. It just means you care enough about both of you to refuse to participate in a relationship that brings out the worst in everyone involved. That is the gift I gave to Marcus when I closed my door on his selfishness and manipulation. I gave him the chance to decide what kind of man he wanted to be when nobody was there to clean up his mistakes for him. And I gave myself the chance to discover who I was when I was not defined by how much I was willing to sacrifice for someone else. Have you ever had to make the heartbreaking choice to step back from someone you love because they were hurting you? I would love to hear your story in the comments below. If this message resonated with you, please give this video a like to help other people who might be struggling with similar family situations find it. Subscribe to my channel for more stories about finding strength in the most difficult moments of our lives. And please, share this with someone who needs to hear that it is okay to put your own well-being first, even when it comes to the people you love most. Thank you for listening to my story and for reminding me that even in our darkest moments, we are never as alone as we think we are. May you find the courage to love others without losing yourself, and may you always remember that teaching people how to treat you is one of the most loving things you can do for everyone involved.